This is the NBA Storyteller.
Let's talk about the most obvious and important play in basketball. The play that needs no fixing because it's what sets it apart from every other sport known to man. Buzzer beaters. The most exciting, rewarding moment any sport can offer at any moment. It's the only sporting moment where the literal game can end and the ending buzzer can sound off without the game actually being decided. Sure, you may say football, but no, there's no game-ending buzzer. It just ends silently like an old man slipping unconsciously into his warm sitz bath. In football, 0-0-0 means nothing. It's a soft ending, just like soccer. Who knows about hockey? Anyway, the buzzer beater brings the fleeting tick-tock of time and shoves those microseconds right into our heart. It takes all the panic and planning and flips it on its head, where only the chillest prevail, or the luckiest, or the sharpest, or just the tallest. Anyway, the buzzer beater takes everything you want to happen, everything you plan on happening, punches it in the face, and hands it back to you and says, here, deal with it in 6, 5, 4, whatever you gotta do, you better do it now, because your plans and goals don't matter in 3, 2, 1. The buzzer and buzzer beater decides it all, and in our modern age, nobody can argue with it, because it's an ending with such a sharp edge. It's 100-0, instantaneous. The NBA has made sure that it is all clear and clean and simple. As crisp as a light switch from on to off. The buzzer beaters. These are simply the most definitive plays in the NBA. There's nothing left to the subjective eye anymore about these. And if there is any doubt, we replay the shit out of these moments to make sure the ball was released on time, to make sure the toe is in bounds or behind the three-point line. It's all captured by 15 different cameras and 15 different frame rates. We even have a gosh darn backboard lighting up in perfect sync with the clock. Very ingenious. So much precision. There's nothing left to chance, and sometimes this is to the game's detriment. From waved off game winners to 3-minute reviews just killing any semblance of a celebration.
Now they're saying no basket. Yes.
I mean, really, a buzzer beater being waved off is as climax robbing as a dunker getting called for the offensive foul. Mind you, that's something we almost never see, but in years past, sure, the clock and release wasn't a matter of math and physics. When we went by this clock, there was a black hole between 1 and 0. With no decimal, I'm sure there were a couple of game winners that left huge chunks of that 1 second on the table. But there's no dispute because there's no evidence. Side note, this little interim stage here was pretty cute. How great is this little camera shot of an actual clock? So again, with no precision, there's really no debate, but this mindset hung with us for quite a long time, including situations like this Reggie Miller three-pointer at the buzzer.
Miller for three. Oh, he backed it in.
It is clear it was after the buzzer, but for some reason they just let it go. Well, we actually know the reason.
Oh, he backed it in.
But also, when the clock went from a hard 3-2-1 second and went to the 10th decimal,
Here's Jordan.
of course, a whole new slew of rules and solutions had to be put in place, and rightfully so. When you literally add an element to a game, a new dimension, you can plan for it, but sometimes there are unsuspected results, and you need these situations to happen before you can correct it. Dating back to 1990, with the Trent Tucker rule, when Trent Tucker hit a game-winning shot for the Knicks against the Chicago Bulls with 0.1 second on the clock. That's when the league and everybody else realized that you can't get a full shot off with 0.1 seconds on the clock. And they stated that you would need at least 0.3 to get any sort of shot off. And then leading to the fallout after the Derek Fisher game-winning shot in the playoffs against the Spurs. And the Spurs went on to petition the league, arguing that his shot that he took was physically impossible to do in 0.4 seconds. And then finally, the decision that a human can't get any sort of shot off in 0.2 seconds. And it only leaves time for a tip-in. But even in the transition from this clock to this one subjective assessment and potential game-deciding call has remained as prevalent as ever. And it's this. When do we stop the clock? Now, of course, there's a rule There's a rule for everything. And it's in the books. Or at least that's what you would think. Actually, it's pretty gray with some odd overlapping circular logic. But to summarize it, the most specific language about stopping the clock after a made field goal in the final 2 minutes is this. The timing devices shall be stopped whenever the official's whistle sounds. Mind you, the official's whistle is actually what stops the clock. Some technological setup there. But really, let's go back here. In the rules, they do describe what a field goal is, either clearing or staying in the net, and it describes that the clock should stop after a successful field goal, but nowhere does it simply state the clock is supposed to stop when the ball clears the net. The only part about actual stoppage is whenever the official gets around to blowing the whistle, and that's the official rule. The clock stops when the official blows the whistle, and this is specifically ridiculous. Again, it may sound like a seamless thread of logic, but again, there is a gap in there, and the gap is when it is actually considered a field goal and when the official feels it's the right time to blow the whistle. So what we end up with is some varieties in when to stop the clock. And that's what we're diving in with today. If a field goal is something that can be decided when the ball is still in the net, or if the net throws it back out, or let's say somebody actually has their hand under the net and pops it back out, then is a field goal when it clears the net? Is it clearing the net space? When the net snaps back and the ball is out, is that still the net space? Has it cleared the net? Again, the rule is simple. The time shall stop whenever the official's whistle sounds. That's the rule. All right, just stop everything. Just hear me out. I know this might sound really stupid, or at least an odd parsing of words, but something's up. There's something wrong here. If there can be pages and pages dedicated to detailing the shiznit out of a travel, and a travel still be a questionable judgment call half the time, I mean, what the hell constitutes a gather step? And when does a possession really begin? Not even including the times refs just let it go, since it's a wide open lane or a fast break. Travels are a conundrum, but measure that against what constitutes a successful field goal, and when to stop the clock? It's only 2 lines? And most importantly, if it's so darn clear, why, as you'll see in a few minutes, why is there zero consistency in the actual game? You can crap all over the words here, but come on, we've all seen it. We've all seen the odd way they'll stop the clock and add a particular amount of time, and it never quite makes sense. Okay, just go with it. Back to the show. So the actual in-practice NBA rule is that the game is actually over only if it feels like it should be over. So the end of a game in these situations is determined by the mood, by touch. So now let's shine some light on the NBA's best kept secret in plain view. Let's jump into this Jell-O mold. Now, of course, if time expires when the ball is in the air, there's no question that it's over. On the other side of that is the game-winning shot that clearly leaves time on the clock. Precious game-deciding time. And quick, how many games have been decided with that remaining time? Whether it's 3 seconds, 2 seconds, 1 second, 0.5 seconds, 0.3 seconds.
Tyreek at the hole.
So then, what about the times a team is flat out robbed of that opportunity, of their rightful 0.3 seconds? Here we go. This is where I'm starting, where things were still mysterious, where it could read an entire 1 second on the clock and the ball out of the net, but it is yet a game winner. We can't dispute this because it was going from 1 second to no time with zero signification of where the clock actually is. That was okay. But now we get to modern times where we now have an extra decimal, the 10th. And this is pretty amazing. The ball is now out of the hoop, buzzer's gone off, the TV clock says 0.2 seconds. And this is just to demonstrate that there's confusion. There isn't 100% consistency amongst all the clocks and how the story is being told. Now we get to anticipation, okay? It's all about feel. This is Dwight Howard game-winning dunk.
Alley-oop. Howard at the buzzer!
All right, look at our game clock here. Again, our clocks are not synced up here. We've got 0.4 and 0.5 reading there. Either way, the play is over. The play has been over. Here comes the ball. Ball's out of the net. We've got 0.7 on the TV clock. We've got 0.5 on the scoreboard. And the ball, it's kind of grainy here, is out of the net. and it just keeps running. The clock just keeps running. Now, what was interesting about this was it was so egregious that this clock just kept running after the dunk that they actually put time back on. They put 0.2 seconds on. And what my issue here is that, of course, you can consider the actual start of the clock, when the clock actually starts, right? When he actually touches the ball, does the clock start right away? No, it takes about 0.2 seconds before the person actually gets the clock started. So they take that into consideration, which shows you that they can take all of this into consideration. It's all within their power. Did the clock even start at the right time? No, it took about 0.2 seconds before it even started, before it was even engaged. But the point is, this whole play from contact here to actual dunking through the net took about 0.2, 0.3 seconds. I mean, it is basically the definition of what they say you're only able to do in about 0.3 seconds. It wasn't quite a tip, but it was one singular motion through the rim. So what I'm saying here is, even though it says 0.7 and the ball's through the rim, let's say they started the clock on time, this would be about 0.5. But what did they settle on? They settled on 0.2. Why? Why did they decide 0.2? It doesn't make any sense. What I'm saying here is the effort is to let the game end on these types of plays, however possible. And if they can't, if it's too egregious, all you're ever going to see put back on the clock is 0.2, and all you're ever going to see with the actual manual stop of the time is 0.1. And that's never enough time. It's never enough time. 0.1 is not enough time. 0.2 is an insult. You should have a half a second for this shot. Anyway, let's move on. And now let's just move into some classic mistime time stoppage. The ball is now through the net. We have 0.4 on the TV, we have 0.3 on the shot clock backboard. I'm not sure what this is feeding from. These are constantly out of sync when it comes to tenths. And I assume this is the official. It is clearly out of the net, and we have 0.3 seconds left. Does that matter? Sure it matters, but they only stop it at 0.1. Did they review this? No, they moved on with the game right away. These tenths of a second matter. We know they matter. If it only matters one game, once a year, and it changes the outcome, that matters. Bam, all right. Let's go to the next one. KD misses. We're going back. Full force. Dunk. All right, we've got 0.1, 0.2, but you know this game is over right here. It is too close. It is too perfect of an ending. As we see, we are home. It's a home game for the Orlando Magic. Mind you, you know what? I'm so sick of this. If you're the home team, you wear white, okay? I'm sick of this. I know they like to switch up the jerseys. This is a complete side note. But if you're the home team, you wear white, okay? I'm sick of this. This game is over. No review. We have a full celebration here. They could have easily had 0.1 second or 0.2 seconds. But why mess with this ending? Why mess with it? Why? You don't want to mess with endings like this. And this is a great one. This is a classic here. 2.3 seconds left. Warriors down 1. This was a game that went all the way down to the wire. Andre Iguodala, 0.7 left in the air, through the net at 0.2. 0.2 through the net, 0.4 on the TV clock. Still don't understand the discrepancy. Still don't get it. This is all synced up and scientific, but there's no way on this green earth that they are going to let this game continue. This is the end. Bam! They let 0.4 seconds run off the clock, or 0.2, however you want to categorize it. And they let those precious tenths of a second that they wanted to display to everybody, you might as well have just kept it at no decimals, no tenths. If you wanted to have control like this, they should have just never exposed themselves. Is this trivial? Sure, it's trivial as fuck. But for a league that spends so much time touting their precision and excellence, especially when it comes to the clock, So it's looking a little suspicious or careless. But really, it's just inconsistent. And that is what folks generally hate in sports, is inconsistency in the rules. I believe they need to write a specific rule stating when the clock should stop. Not how it stops, but when it should stop. Here we go. Let's try this one out. Dwayne Wade to Chris Bosh through the net. We have 0.9 and 0.7. Ooh, it's switching between 0.8, 0.7 up there. And this is a good one because you cannot let this game end. You have almost a second left when the ball is through the net. But they wanted to let this one go. But they had to stop it at 0.5. BC, they still even can't get that right. If they could let that one go, they would have let that one go. And that matters, right? Right? All right, this was a great one. I saw this game live. We all saw this game live. LeBron James. This was the game before going into All-Star weekend. The last game, 2.2 when he pulls up, through the net, 0.3 clearly on the clock, 0.5 on the game, on the court. But this was the ending. But it was so egregious. This is one of those situations that's so egregious they couldn't. The ball was almost bouncing on the floor before they stopped the clock. So there's that infamous 0.1. And they give them 0.1, and that's the end. And it's basically over. But if they could have let that one run out, they would have let it run out. But in a world of inconsistency, sometimes there's something that's pretty good. So let me show you a completely different take on the stoppage of the clock. This is a great one because whoever is on the clock here was actually realistic. As Nene went to dunk the ball, they basically stopped the clock at exactly the point of the dunk, which is smart because it's not going to take much time to get through the net. If you see here, it's 0.5 and the dunk is taking place and they basically stop as soon as they get a chance. Boom! They stop the clock, 0.3 seconds left. This is what it should be, right? If somebody's dunking the ball at the buzzer, basically when they hit the rim, that person should be hitting that button right then. But there's no rules around this. There's no guidelines. When somebody dunks at the end to win a game, there's no rules like how long it takes to shoot a ball or what is physically possible in a certain amount of time. They have all these pretend rules. When it comes down to the end of the freaking game, there are no rules. It's all about touch and feel. So we've clearly advanced into another realm of understanding today. We all see that this is the Wild West of NBA refereeing. To me, this is a bit of a scandal. It's not even an oversight, it's a willful disregard. And like we talked about, the best of our knowledge, every aspect of time is inspected like a God-blessed particle. Even in blowouts, the useless replays for out of bounds and adjusting the clock for when it really went out of bounds, they kill our time with these dog and pony shows of a review.
They'll probably look at it. Yeah, you can look in the last 2 minutes.
You're right.
Basically putting on a whole Broadway show to prove to us that they always care about the rules. So again, why don't they do this all the time? Reviewing when the ball left the net. It would be the simplest one of all, right? But I get it. I mean, shit. I get it completely. This is an omission for the sake of story, because if they always left the exact amount of time on the clock, we wouldn't have these great moments. We wouldn't have a lot of these great moments. It would be a mood killer, a time waster, and completely anticlimactic. So the storyteller in me is totally cool with this. But unfortunately, the eyeballs in my head say this is way too obvious. So in a game of trickery and misdirection and judgment calls and extended replays and uncertainty, all I can hope is that somebody sees this and explains this to me, or the league just finally decides to do something about it, or just do a better job of not making it so damn obvious. Alright, so, okay, great, we did that. What's the retort here? I'm gonna answer some questions before they even ask. They might say the rules are clear, and I'm just parsing them in an odd way. Okay, that means the referees are willfully breaking the rules. Or number two, the rules are vague and leave room for interpretation, which is my theory. And the referees are living leaving it up in that gray space. That's it, right? I mean, it's not even a question. This is as clear as John Stockton's lack of a left hand. You saw the evidence. You've seen it too. You've seen it in real life, in real practice. Everybody's seen this and knows this. I mean, I just can't wait to see what folks try to come up with here to discredit this. If folks can watch the whole video, I doubt there's 3 people watching this video. I see the analytics. Don't think I don't know. I think I'll watch this long-ass video. I doubt there's 3 people watching this at this point. I see the analytics. Don't think I don't know. None of y'all watch this long-ass video.